So you might have already heard about Ergo Sum, the new sword that's launched in Final Shape. It has random rolls and it takes its perks from existing exotic weapons. For example, this one has Gathering Light, which comes from Traveler's Chosen. Get kills and it builds up ability energy. It also has random frames. So this is a wave sword frame. You do a heavy attack and it sends out a wave in a straight line in front of you. This one is Arc. It has Arc Conductor from Risk Runner. So when you do a heavy attack, you get arc damage resistance and chain lightning effects, and it's a vortex frame. And this one I wanted to test out now has the Perfect Fifth from Polaris Lance. Every 5 hits attach a delayed solar explosive, scorching your target. And I got lucky and got this on a caster frame. And legendary caster frames, when you do a heavy attack and it sends out that blast, when it hits an enemy, it lingers and does scorch damage. Well, I don't think it's technically scorch, but it does lingering damage over time. So I'm wondering if that lingering damage also applies on Ergo Sum, and if so, whether each tick counts towards the 5 hits before it attaches the delayed explosive. In which case, it could be almost like a special ammo Dragon's Breath to put into your damage rotation. Swap to this, do a caster frame, swap back to something else, and then refresh it later. So let's find out. I'm testing Ergo Sum against Dragon's Breath, both with and without Ember of Ashes for the increased Scorch stacks. And I'm also going to show how Witherhoard compares as well, because they're both going to be used in pretty much the same way. Okay, and he stopped burning. I think that was a good test, because other enemies didn't get hit by the Scorch and they didn't ignite. Yeah, 57,000. Okay, that one was pretty clean. So that was on a solo subclass with Ember of Ashes equipped for a larger Scorch effect. And yeah, 83,074. So that means that the caster frame sword ticks are counting as the 5 hits to attach the delayed solar explosive to provide Scorch. And because of Ember of Ashes, that Scorch builds up quicker and causes an ignition, greatly increasing the damage. Okay, I think that's a pretty good test. Without Ember of Ashes, 97,338. Okay, that was just the boss igniting. No enemies near the boss ignited and damaged him back, so this should be a good test with Ember of Ashes for increased Scorch stacks. 119,000. Okay, that was a pretty good test. So that's just Witherhoard, no surges, nothing like that. And 70,000. So although one shot of Dragon's Breath outdamages Ergo Sum, which is obviously to be expected being a heavy weapon versus a special, it's still pretty viable. And the real comparison comes down to something like Witherhoard. And remember that because Witherhoard's kinetic, if you have kinetic surges on, none of your other weapons will benefit from that. Whereas with Ergo, you can have Solar Surge for the initial ticks. Obviously the ignition won't benefit from surges. But then if your heavy weapon is also solar, then you're benefiting from the surges all around. And just a final note about the damage numbers, just so you know they're reliable. Warlord's Ruin is now 1950. I'm only 1941, but all this armor stayed the same. And I made sure that on every test, the weapon dealing the damage was 1975. You can see that Ergo Sum there, and the Dragon's Breath. And all the other weapons I had in the slots were 1900. So my overall level was the same. And the level of the weapon dealing the damage were the same as each other as well. So those numbers are comparatively fine to judge against each other.